Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Green Tech Southwest, the last one of 2021. I cannot believe it. So we've got something a bit difficult, or hope not. Maybe that's my subconscious speaking. Different for you today. We've got a panel discussion with some awesome people in the tech scene to help you get equipped with how to tackle climate change in 2022. So we'll be getting started in a few minutes or so. As per usual, this is just a sort of warm up crew, I guess. Just get you all settled. Make sure you've got everything you need. Make sure sound's okay. You're comfortable. You've got your favourite pillow, all that sort of thing. And then we'll be getting started in 3 minutes or so. As per usual, just going to run through the sort of structure and format a little bit. We have thrown it on its head a little bit today, but we like to keep it interesting for our last event of the year. There'll be a panel discussion. We've got some determined questions we'll put to the speakers, but obviously we want you guys to feel like you still got opportunity to answer the questions. So we will have a Q&A session at the end. So there'll be an ask a question section, which you can just sort of see to the bottom of your screen. Anything that pops to your mind, if you do want to pop it in there, then we can make sure we get these questions answered for you at the end. Likewise, if you see something in there that you think, I'd really like to know the answer to that, the upvote, they've got some upvote arrows as well, which means that, you're more likely to get things answered. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comment section. As I say this before, the comment section is one of my favourite bits. You guys are all so interactive and always are sharing such a great amount of resources and information. So it really feels like we're actually at an event and I'm not just talking to myself. Please feel free to introduce yourselves. We love a chatty feed. It's just great to know where you're all sort of tuning in from, what you do, what brings you here, especially seeing as this is sort of an event geared at what changes tech workers can do, or what actions they can take. Feel free to share what you do and sort of what brings you here. As I'm sure we'll see lots of common themes throughout the comment section today. Welcome, Adrian. Thanks for introducing yourself, and Chris Green we've got there as well from near Bristol. We'll be getting started pretty soon. But also one thing I wanted to just sort of highlight is, so with it being sort of everyone winding down for the end of the year, we've all got our thinking caps on at Green Tech Southwest about what kind of events we can bring to you in the new year. Obviously, we've got a few that we've already announced and a few more in the works. Don't worry, we're brainstorming away, but we'd always love to hear from you and what you want to hear from us. So if you've got any topics that you'd like us to cover that we've not covered yet, or if there's been any development in ones that we've maybe done before, and you'd really like to get them, I hear some speakers on that. We love a challenge. We've got such a great network here in Bristol and beyond. If there is anything that you think we'd like us to cover or you'd quite like to hear from, please do let us know. You can either drop it down in the comment section or feel free to get in touch with us at greentechsw@gmail.com or drop us a note on Twitter or LinkedIn. But all of our socials and means of communication will be shared later. But it's just good to we want to make sure that we're still bringing you content that you're interested in and that you think would be relevant. So we'd love to hear from you. If you're a little bit new here, we have actually had we've had an amazing range of speakers already and topics covered already. So if you are relatively new, please head to our website where we've got all our past resources, like event resources, interviews and everything, because we've covered things like digital carbon footprint, carbon intensity, hydrogen recently, e-waste and circular economy, as well as aeroponics, sustainable microfarming and IoT, as well as sustainable software engineering. So all these topics can be found on our website, which we'll be sharing avidly throughout the talk. And here we are.
Hello, everybody. We're doing it all the wrong way round today. So normally I would do the intro next, but it's Mike. But I've still got to put the slides up. So let me do that.
We love a challenge.
We love a well-oiled machine here, don't we? Cool.
Great stuff. Thanks, Hannah.
All right.
Yeah,
Tell me when you want me to press go.
Okay, will do. Yeah, so as Hannah said, we're just switching everything around a little bit today because Hannah's very kindly going to chair the panel and ask our 4 panelists some great questions. So yeah, firstly, thank you very much everyone for coming. You're in the right place. This is our 20th event, the 19th online. We've only done 1 in person, but we're hoping to change that next year at some point. But yeah, it's great to have everyone here, not just from Bristol and the Southwest, but further afield as well. So yeah, appreciate everyone coming along. Just a few mentions here on this slide. Firstly, we're sponsored by AdLib Recruitment, who I work for, and very kindly Nick, who I think is here, very kindly sort of helped us over the last 2 years with the costs of running the group and giving me time to work on it, which has been great. So AdLib are a B Corp certified independent recruiter working the whole of the UK. So yeah, feel free to check them out. We've also got very kindly sort of supported by Climate Action Tech, and Sandra's here, obviously as one of our panelists, lead organizer at Climate Action Tech, which if you don't know about it already, it's absolutely fantastic online community and doing some really great stuff. So hopefully we'll mention them again throughout the event. And also Future Leap Network, who have been long-time supporters and helpers for us. So really grateful for them and their sort of continued support. So yeah, those are our sort of partner and supported organizations. So yeah, do check them out. We're on social media, so yeah, we're on Twitter. So you can find us through at greentech_swest and also LinkedIn. So we do our best to share other events or interesting resources that we come across there. So drop us a follow if you're on either of those. Next slide, please.
All right, Chris Whitty.
Great. So this is us. Yeah, 3 other pictures of us. So myself, Mike, Hannah, who's in my middle, might be in your middle, and Ellen. So yeah, we're organisers. We're all very passionate about anything that helps the battle against climate change, and obviously, we're big fans of any sort of digital technology product or service that helps to minimise sort of carbon impact really on the environment. So yeah, that's us. Next slide, please. Great. So yeah, there's obviously quite a few aims to this group. As I mentioned, we've been going nearly 2 years. It'll be 2 years in January. So yeah, we'd like to create a space to share insight and generate discussion. That's really important to us, that we get as much engagement and lots of different viewpoints. So it can be in the promotion of technology to help reduce our impact on the environment, or it can be also looking at the harms and potentially the destructive elements of technology. So we try and give a sort of balanced view really where we can. And yet we are a local community. It's not to say that we only want local people here. It's not like that. So we're very lucky that we're well set. We're in North Bristol, South Bristol, and Minehead currently. So yeah, we kind of obviously look to help and promote local initiatives. But yeah, we've had lots of speakers from throughout Europe, and we've got a really wide audience here, which is really important to us. And it being open and inclusive is incredibly important. And that goes across all our speakers and audience as well. So we do have a code of conduct, which I think Hannah will drop the link through if you want to check it out. So yeah, there's a few things on there, but I mean the most important thing is just to be nice to each other, and make sure that everyone's opinion is being respected. We want to have engaging, open, lively debate, but just nothing that would hurt anyone's feelings really. And we have a constitution as well, which will give you a bit more information as to kind of what we stand for and what we're about, which you're very welcome to check out as well, which should be going up shortly as well. Next slide, please. And here we go. So not sure if this is everyone, but it's and we're obscuring a couple in the bottom left there. But yeah, we've had some fantastic speakers over the last 20 events. So there's a few of them lined up here. So yeah, just encourage you to check out our website. All the previous talks are on there. You can watch them all sort of via Crowdcast. There's links to all of them, and there's lots of interviews, resources that were shared, lots of really amazing tips. So yeah, do have a little flick through there over the Christmas break. You know, if there's any topics that you like the look of, you'd like to see more of, then get in touch with us. There is a contact email on there as well. So yeah, we've worked really hard on that, and hopefully you'll get something good out of it. Yeah, and we're looking forward to obviously taking this fully live next year at some point, and you know, we'll make sure that we can do hybrid events so that, you know, if you are unable to make the events in person, then you can watch them online. We'll continue to do that. Thank you. Great stuff. And just grouping it, because obviously this is, you know, aimed at tech workers or anyone within the tech industry. We thought it'd be really good to sort of just list a few topics that we've covered so far and a few speakers within the tech industry. So yeah, there's lots of really interesting talks on our website which you can look at. You know, from sustainable software engineering to cloud to digital carbon footprints, waste. You know, we've got everything covered there for you. So yeah, and there's one from Hannah, which was great. So do check that one out as well. Cool. So that we're done. Yeah. So that brings us on to our sort of community 60-second intro. So it's over to you, really. We like to get a few people from the audience to come and tell us what they're working on, any kind of projects that you might want some support with, or any sort of guidance or opinion. You know, just let us know if there's anything that you think would be of interest to the audience. Then do yeah, just make yourself known in the comments, and we'll invite you to the screen for 60 seconds to tell everyone what you're up to, really. So yeah, if I could do that now, if anyone would like to have a go, yeah, just drop your name in the comments or say hi, and yeah, we can invite you on now.
It's always a very tense moment, this, isn't it? Sometimes we have so many, we can't get everyone on the screen all in time. And then sometimes, maybe a bit like today, we have that awkward tumbleweed moment. Does anybody want to save us from being awkward here and come on the screen and give a 60-second shout out? Even if you've done it before, you're very welcome to come back. I know we've got a few regulars with us today. Oh, Andy, legend. I knew you were here today. I was hoping you might come. Mike, are you doing the inviting today, or am I doing it?
I've just done it, actually.
All right, sweet. Yeah, good suggestion, Chris. We could have a tumbleweed video placeholder in future. I think so. Right, Mike, I'm going to shut up because this is your section, isn't it? So
that's all right. Thank you. Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Good to see you all. Lovely to be back at another super event. And look, I've even put my Christmas jumper on. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas. So have a great Christmas. I was just actually writing a few notes to sort of summarize the year. Last week, I actually got my own notification through for Business on Purpose that we have gone B Corp certified as well. So that's great to be taking our own medicine at long last. So that's really good. We'll be announcing it formally a few days before Christmas, hopefully. But I was getting around to thinking about the last year and making resolutions for next year, and, you know, getting fitter and losing a few pounds and all that kind of thing. And I've got a few businesses that have signed up to the cohort for next year to go through B Corp, which is a great way to get your company fitter, healthier, stronger, and better. So if there's anyone that's interested, drop me a note at Business on Purpose, and we'd be really happy to help your business get fitter and stronger. Hope that's okay. It was over 60 seconds, but the jumper was worth it.
Fantastic. Yeah, congrats on the jumper and also on the B Corp accreditation. That's a really strong effort. Thank you, Andy. Great to see you, and hope to catch up with you next year.
Great. Thanks, team.
Take care. Great stuff. Thank you, Andy. Anyone else before we move on? think we might be done, Hannah.
All right, the perennial problem of where the mute button has been solved, and I've unmuted, so that's great. Well, shall we crack on then? If there's no one else that wants to come on the screen and show us their fantastic jumper or trainers or background plants, whatever, let's move on to today's event. Yeah? Okay, so
Yep.
Ellen, we're going to say goodbye to you for a bit, I think, aren't we? Cheerio for now. Thanks for a great intro, as always, Ellen. And Mike, we're keeping the slides up, aren't we? And then we're going to invite our panelists.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, okay, fantastic. So I've made the slides big. So we are just going to invite our panelists onto the screen with us. So just bear with us a tick whilst we assemble our dream team. So with us today we have Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We have Chris. I think Chris might not have a video on at the moment. Right.
Yeah, no, I am.
He's on his way.
To get off the screen. We've got too many people on the screen, Hannah, so I'm gonna duck out.
All right, cool. And we have Janet with us. Hey, Janet.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Chris will be on screen with us in a moment. And now, one thing I do need to tell everyone in the audience today is, unfortunately, Mohan from the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance, SDIA for short, can't join us today, which is a real shame. What we have been able to do, though, is get one of Mohan's colleagues, Michael. Some of you might know Michael Agia. Michael is also at the SDIA. And Michael has done a few quick videos for us with his answers to the questions that we're going to put to our panelists. So Tech being kind, please be kind to us today, Tech. I am going to play those instead of Mohan. And Sandra, Chris and Janet will all be having a chat after we've gone through the planned questions at the end. So we really want to hear questions from you in the audience today. We have an Ask a Question section somewhere over there, probably on the bottom of your screen. It says Ask a Question. You can use that to ask questions to our panelists, and we will put them to them at the end. So we should have plenty of time for that. And now I can say hello to Chris, because Chris has joined us on the screen as well. Hello,
Hello.
Chris. Excellent.
I was there, yeah.
You were there. You just looked like a little Dalek. Not your fault, obviously. Our fault. Okay, so let's just have a little run through of just setting the scene for everyone that's joining us for the panel discussion today. So the idea of today's discussion is to talk about what tech workers can do to take action on climate change in 2022, or even in 2021, because we've still got 3 weeks, right? So there's still time to take action. You don't have to wait for the new year. One of the things that I wanted to do was just pop a little definition of tech worker up on the screen, so everybody knows what we mean when we talk about tech worker. So I had a little chat with some members of CAT when we were planning this event, probably back in August, to say, hey, what does tech worker mean to you? And inevitably, when you ask something in a large community of people, you get a lot of different answers back. But I settled on this definition, which I think is a nice definition. So today's panel discussion, we are thinking of a tech worker as an individual that either produces or makes extensive use of digital technology, regardless of industry. Now, some of you might read that definition and think, well, heck, that's everybody. And I mean, yeah, it kind of is, right? Like, we're all making extensive use of digital technology today. So whoever you are, whatever your background, whatever industry you're coming from today, if you've been working in tech a really long time, or if you've been working in tech a short time, today's panel discussion is hopefully going to be relevant and insightful for you. Oh, sorry, so no pressure on our panelists there. Sorry, guys. It's yeah. All right, so that's the definition of tech worker. So we're talking about individuals either producing or making extensive use of digital technology. So anyway, enough from me. Let's meet our panelists and hear from them. My job is simply to facilitate this. So the panelists do know the questions in advance, by the way. And, you know, as you should with any panel, start off with a nice, easy question. So we are going to ask each of our panelists, who are you? And what's the aim of the organisation that you represent today? So hopefully no sweat there with that first one. And I've put the order of speakers up across the bottom. And I've done alphabetical order because, you know, that's just, you know, the most democratic way I could think of to do it. And of course, we're going to substitute Mo for Michael. So thank goodness his name also begins with an M. Otherwise, that would have really mucked up my slides here, wouldn't it? So Chris, we've got a minute and a half. Do you feel ready?
I think so, yes.
Smashing. All right then. Well, Chris, who are you? And what's the aim of the organisation that you represent today? Over to you.
Hello there, my name is Chris Adams. I am one of the directors of the Green Web Foundation. We've been tracking the transition of the internet from fossil-based energy to green energy since 2006. And now we are largely focusing pretty much all our efforts around the idea of a fossil-free internet by 2030, because we feel that is one of the best ways to get to a just and sustainable internet for everyone. The Green Web Foundation also does work with industry. So we work with the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance and the Green Software Foundation to do things like form specs, like the Software Carbon Intensity Spec, an open spec for developers to implement their own tools against. And we also run the Green Web Fellowship, which is a fellowship where we basically work with a number of designers and developers and campaigners and researchers to embed the principles of climate justice into the work of technologists and create an open syllabus that can be reused by organizations. We also publish Branch Magazine, which is a magazine for and by people who dream of a just and sustainable internet for all. And that has writers from the likes of Microsoft and Amazon to people from the Amazon talking about how technology and how that and its impact on the climate also relates to them. Finally, we do a bit of consulting and training around this field. And you can find out more by Googling the Green Web Foundation or thegreenwebfoundation.org. That's me.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. And I was being diligent as you were talking there and dropping some links into the the chat for people as you were going. So I'll try and do that for each of you. Right. So who's next? Janet. So same question to you. Who are you? And what's the aim of the organisation that you represent today? Over to you. Thanks, Janet.
Hi, I'm not really a technologist. I studied anthropology and I've worked in kind of global development and worked with social movements and NGOs across the world on campaigning and advocacy. And I came onto this topic with a friend of mine who I met at a meetup a lot like this. So definitely come up with plans with people you meet here. We wanted to take action on the way that we dispose of technology without taking full use of it and not really even using it to its full potential. And by technology, I mean kind of consumer electronics, the stuff that everyone's familiar with. And we started working on this about 10 years ago, hosting restart parties, which are basically community repair events where volunteers help people fix stuff and help them understand whether it's a good product, how to buy better in the future. Those events are essentially laboratories for us to collect data on how consumer electronics industry is failing us and what the barriers to repair are. And so on the back of that data, we've started campaigning for the right to repair. We're the kind of driving force initially behind the right to repair campaign in Europe, but now it's amazing and growing and taking on a life of its own. So I'll be hopefully talking to you about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Janet. And like you had 10 seconds to spare as well, so mega. So I've just popped a couple of links whilst you were talking. So your organisation is the restartproject.org. So if anyone's interested in checking out more about that, have a look. And I hope I've put the right website in for the Right to Repair campaign, repair.eu. Websites that I know well. Amazing. Janet, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so now I'm going to have a go at playing Michael's intro. Bear with me, right? This could be really, really interesting. So hang on a second. I have practiced. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Sorry, we need lift music whilst I'm setting this up. Okay, so this is our third panelist, Michael Ogier.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you remotely like this. My name is not Mohan Gandhi, unfortunately. I am Michael Ogier, and I'm the Director of External Relations at the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance, which is a primarily European-based network of more than 65 members and partners that are working to create a sustainable digital economy. And I'm also an ICT sustainability advocate. I've been working within the internet governance and policy and also infrastructure development space, let's say, for the past 6 years, just trying to raise awareness on the impact and the relationship, rather, between infrastructure, the internet, climate change, and sustainability. So it's really an honor to be here, and I really love the work that that Hannah and all of her colleagues are doing for Green Tech Southwest. And I'm really happy to be, even by extension, a kind of a partner, a resource, a collaborator of sorts with this really great initiative. And I also want to say that I'm so sorry that I can't be there with you all in person. I'm actually at the Internet Governance Forum at the moment, where I'm doing some advocacy, so that's why I'm not there.
Okay, so that worked all right, didn't it? Phew. And you did a sound check for me, and that worked. Okay, and then you get to see lots of terrible videos that I like watching pop up on my recommended YouTube feed at the end. So that's not embarrassing at all. Anyway, right, Sandra, you are last up to introduce yourself. So who are you? And what's the aim of the organisation that you represent today? Sandra, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm Sandra. I use the pronouns she, her, and I'm one of the organizers of Climate Action Tech, alongside Chris, who's also here, but representing from a different angle today, and Melissa and Heather, who are also in the organizing team. And we usually use the abbreviation CAT when we talk about Climate Action Tech, so yeah, expect lots of cats, basically. At Climate Action Tech, our mission is to seed climate action within companies and the wider tech industry. So kind of making a change from within companies. And we are here to help our members become more effective agents of change. So that means that we are here to help you learn more about the intersection of climate and tech, but also like give you a place to practice talking about this topic, so that you can go into conversations with your colleagues or leadership prepared and ready. And we actually have an end of year celebration event later today, which I'm going to plug, because if you are interested in what we've been up to in 2021 and what we kind of have, what are planning next for 2022, you can join the celebration later today. I'll put the link in the chat. And that's pretty much my intro.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you for putting the link in, because I was thinking to the event tonight, which I'm looking forward to coming to. And I was thinking, how on earth am I going to find that quickly? So well done, ever organised. All right, cool. So hopefully everyone has now met our panellists and you have an idea about the incredible spaces and the incredible initiatives that they work on. All four of you are just absolutely amazing, and I'm very much in awe that you're all here giving us your time and sharing your very considerable expertise and ideas on this topic. So, cheers, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to question 2. Let's start getting into some juicy stuff. I'm just going to bring up these slides so everyone can see the question. And Mike, if you're there in the background, yeah, you've made it big. So thank you. So when we talk about the climate crisis, it can be a little bit depressing, can't it? You know, it's been going on for quite a while. We've had the COP26, which was, you know, mixed. So I thought the next question, we should really talk about the hopeful side of things, because if we're all beaten down and despairing about the climate crisis and climate change, we're not going to crack this. So I wanted to ask each of our panelists, what has given you hope around the climate crisis this past year? So we've got about 1.5 minutes each on that question. So Chris, you're first up in the alphabet. You're on mute, I think, at the moment. Yeah, that's going to be such a perennial problem, isn't it, with a panel discussion?
I mean, I could mime it, I suppose, but it's probably better with me talking.
I think so.
All right. So the things that really kind of inspired me this year, it's kind of a bit of a cliche to start with kids and protesting, but yes, that is really, really cool. But what's really awesome in my view is that while we have seen lots of news around kids turning up every Friday for the future for things like this, to, you know, week in, week out, to actually get this message out and shift the discourse, they're also doing other things that we do not see quite so much. They've been doing things that use the law like a baseball bat in courts, basically, against national governments and against huge companies to kind of win, to achieve wins we didn't think possible. So as an example, so in Germany this year, we've seen a target to get to net zero or to phase out something like coal, which is one of the biggest causes of climate change, come from a phase out date by, say, the early 2040s, now to 2030, largely by basically going to court and saying, look, the government right now is not actually protecting our future interests, and this is impinging on our human rights. And the courts basically saying, yes, you're right. I guess kind of children do deserve to have a life in the future. And they've basically been able to tell the government, say, look, you need to go back and change all your plans to account for essentially the future of children, because you have a duty of care to them. And we've seen the same thing happening with in the corporate world as well. Like with Shell having the same thing happening. You have a bunch of campaigners win against one of the largest oil companies in the world to force them to kind of pseudo cut emissions and change their own corporate strategy to basically halve their emissions by 2030. So this is stuff which is informed by the science, but embeds these ideas around kind of people's human rights and actually achieve some wins there. So that's one thing. But I also think it's really exciting just seeing how the drop...
Chris, I'm just going to give you a quick time check because you've had your 1.5 minutes.
Okay, so I'll stop now. All right, that's the biggest one. The rest I can tell you about another time. But that's by far the most inspiring thing for me.
Oh, I love it. That is very inspiring. And feel free to chuck it in the comments if you've got other stuff to say.
Will do.
We'd love to hear it, because I love hearing what inspires people. I think it's a really great thing. So thank you for sharing that with us. Love that. Okay, Janet. So same question to you, please. What has given you hope around the climate crisis this past year? Over to you.
Yeah, as Chris's reminds me of a friend whose theory of change is smash them in court. So I totally get that. I'm not really that kind of person so much, but mine is also somewhat related to kids. In the last year in the pandemic, we saw a huge groundswell of concern over digital access and laptops for kids and access for kids to get on the internet during lockdown. And while it's not directly related to the climate, and I think that's the next step, what we have finally is a recognition that social justice and fairness is linked to, you know, an agenda of using resources better, preventing waste, and it really in the common man and woman on the street, people finally are making that connection, that the system is broken in social terms and in terms of fairness, but also in terms of the way we use stuff. And so people were pulling laptops out of their cupboards. They've been refurbished. There's a groundswell of community action across the UK to refurbish laptops. I'm sure it happened across Europe as well. There's a really great group in Bristol, by the way, working on that. I should plug them. Yeah, that was the thing that gave me the most hope, was this kind of linking of those two concerns. And I think if we can just make the link between consumption and the climate, that will be, for 2022 and beyond.
Wow. Janet, thank you so much. And a total pro as well. You were exactly 1 minute 30. I feel like you've done this before. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that insight. I will now bring up Michael's contribution to this. So just again, bear with me whilst I do the necessary prep. Unfortunately, I have to do it because we only have 6 seats on the Crowdcast platform. So we can't have Mike or Ellen on here doing it with me. So let's hope I can be nice and effective. Okay, so here's Michael. So here's Michael's answer to what has given him hope over the last year around the climate crisis. Let's just get him back to zero with his eyes open. Right.
We can be honest. I mean, the past 2 years have not exactly been fun. But I do have to say that there has been a few things that have given me hope around the climate crisis, rather. And that is probably how many people, and especially institutions, are realizing how important sustainability is. And I think, connected to that, COVID has actually demonstrated how ill-prepared we are as a global society to manage such a global crisis, and how kind of quickly we are to look inward and close ourselves off, when in reality collaboration was, and always will be our savior. And that is what has helped humanity develop to what we are, for good and bad, but also to overcome the crises that we face. So while I personally can be rather pessimistic or even cynical at times, I know that it is important that we remember how we can contribute to this, and there is progress being made, even if it's not necessarily quick enough, or if it's not what we want to see. But as long as you, especially as you're involved locally in your community, with the people you care about, with the people around you, there's a lot of power in that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michael. It feels strange saying thank you to the video, but thanks, Michael, for sharing that. I can see some of you in the comments sharing your stories about things that have inspired you. So please do please do share in the comments anything that has inspired you over the last year and that has given you hope. We would love to hear it. It doesn't just have to be from our panelists. So please do share those things with each other as well. And so Sandra, alphabetically, last on the list. So I now put the question to you. What has given you hope around the climate crisis in the last year?
I think a lot of what was already said kind of applies to me as well. But the thing I'm going to add is in Climate Action Tech, the CAT community itself, and connecting to people around the globe who are already doing things and are already like getting ready to do things, and then they are actually doing those things and sharing what they've done. There's so much great inspiration just in getting to know people who are taking action in whatever way, shape, or form. And this realization that more and more people have, that they can have a role and a part to play within this topic, and that leading to more action is also super, super inspiring. And then what Janet said as well around social justice issues, and that kind of, maybe not agreement is the wrong word, but the realization that those issues are all linked, and that becoming more of a mainstream conversation rather than just a few people talking about it is super exciting and brings me lots and lots of hope.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sandra. Great answer. So do keep the chat going in the comments. We'd love to hear your responses to what our panelists are saying, and anything else you want to throw in. Okay, so I am going to bring the slides back up, and we are going to move on to our third question. So if Mike is there, yeah, Mike is so on it in the background there, working his magic, making all of us big when we're speaking. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so question number 3. What sort of action on climate change are you already seeing tech workers take? Now, Janet, I know for you that the term tech worker may not resonate so much with you, so please do by all means tell us about the awesome things that your community members in the Restart project are working on, or whatever you see fit to tell us about. So, Chris, we are swinging back round to the beginning of the alphabet. We are coming to you first. Please, could you tell us what sort of action on climate change are you already seeing tech workers take? Over to you for 2 minutes.
Okay, so I think one of the key things that I'm seeing more of this year is technologists realizing that, yes, it kind of is your job to be talking about this if you have a degree of professional mobility where other people don't. And there's a really good piece from the British Computer Society basically saying this kind of hashtag tech for bad. When do we not decide to do something? And I think this is really interesting because, yes, it does basically reflect a kind of an awareness of people having quite a lot of power themselves as highly mobile technology professionals to do this kind of stuff. I also think that, well, you can actually see like technologists working in this field. Like we've seen a massive influx of investment, something in the range of like $16.7 billion US into the VC sector, specifically around climate tech in the first of this, just in the by July this year alone. So there's a bunch there. But also you are seeing pressure from within organizations pushing for this. So one example would be, actually Climate Action Tech had an open letter pressuring Amazon. And what we found out when through some conversations was that organizations were using this to say, well, we're going to publicly sign this if you do not do something about being more transparent, about reporting the emissions so we can do the right thing. And you are seeing mentioned in the chat room things like people responding to this and Amazon actually releasing some of the tools to make this possible. So there's a bunch of stuff like that in various different levels. How am I doing for time? Is that like a minute and a half, so Hannah?
You've got 45 seconds, Chris.
Okay, cool. So I'll share some of the links in response to the chat. So there's a bunch there, but I also think that one thing that I see more of is people being much more systemically aware. And the really good example of this I see is the work by My Society. And in particular data.climateemergency.uk, where they've essentially been collating all of the climate plans from every single local government and making them easy to score and read, to basically use technology to allow people as technologists to, yes, do stuff at work, but also engage as members of society to see what they can do there. Because I think there's multiple things you can think about, and it's not just thinking about, let's just focus on making websites greener, because, well, we are members of society, not just consumers and not just employees. That's me.
Nice one. Thank you, Chris. Bang on time. Please do share the link to that. That's not a resource I've come across before. And I reckon there'll be lots of people here who'll be super excited to see about that My Society stuff. That sounds brilliant. Janet, so over to you. What sort of action on climate change are you already seeing tech workers take? 2 minutes.
Well, I might take a larger view on who tech workers are, but it's funny because when you say that phrase, what first comes to mind for me are the workers who resigned from Google, are the workers at Amazon who got together and got sacked and then, sued them and got all, basically mobilized a lot of people. But from our perspective, if we're looking at the embodied carbon in technology, there's a lot of different people who can be considered to be part of this. And the footprint of Amazon is so much bigger than just AWS. So when we saw tech workers, let's say, working in fulfillment centers, I consider them actually an extension of tech. When we saw them denounce the practices of Amazon for destroying unused goods, that had a huge impact. The whistleblowers absolutely created a massive story. And so I think, and if we look at the workers in fulfillment centers trying to unionize in the United States and being crushed. And I think that the tech workers are not just people behind keyboards. And I think what's really interesting is to see how people behind keyboards are starting to form these alliances with those in the other parts of these companies. I know that a lot of you here are probably working for small companies, and there's a lot you can do as well in kind of leading the way in terms of the way you use technology and your own refresh cycles and the way you, the way you consume technology at work. And just, bringing home that message that you don't need a new laptop every 3 years is even that, a small message like that can make a big difference in the company. So I hope that that is also a part of going forward. What tech workers can do is bring home that it's not just servers, but it's like the embodied materials and carbon in the stuff we're using as well.
Amazing, great answer. Thanks, Janet. Okay, so moving on, let's hear what Michael has to say. All right, let's hope this goes as smoothly as the other bits so far. So I have got Michael ready over here. Okay. So Michael should be on our screens now, and Mike in the background there will make him nice and large for us, hopefully. Excellent. So Michael, over to you.
In terms of the actions that tech workers take, I'll be very honest, I'm not a tech worker per se. I'm not a coder or anything like that. I don't work for a big technology firm. But throughout the internet community, there is a lot of work being done, some of which is rather substantial and some of which necessarily is less substantial. But when it comes to tech workers themselves, I think some of the biggest things that I've seen is, for instance, how tech workers can influence things like UX and UI design. I think that's huge. Helping, for instance, to green the web. That's something that Climate Action Tech did earlier this year, just a big campaign about getting websites to host green. That is something that tech workers are doing, speaking up for climate action within their own organizations, letting the management know that this is something that is meaningful to me and to us. And I think another thing which is really important is, and kind of actually related to that, is recognizing the power of collective action. Let me be very clear. Individual changes are important, they are meaningful, but collective action is really what's needed. And it's great to see how people are using their individual power, their individual agency to foster greater collective action. Because ultimately, I'm a strong believer in that, like I said, our individual changes, our individual footprints, whatever, that it's not, it does have an impact, of course, but that is not where we need to be putting, in my opinion, most of our that is not where we need to be putting most of our energy, no pun intended, because there is still a ceiling on that. But if an entire country is saying we want sustainability, that means something.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. Shooting over to us from the Internet Governance Forum. Great to see the chat still going on in the comments as well. It's really nice to see you talking with each other, sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas, sharing your resources. So please keep doing that. Please keep it coming. Sandra, so over to you, please, with our question. What sort of actions are you seeing tech workers already taking? You've got 2 minutes on this one.
Yeah, so there's the base level action of just starting to get engaged with this topic, and everybody who's here today is in that way already taking action literally right now in terms of like learning more about the topic. And then as a step onwards from that, there's figuring out where your leverage points are as an individual, because you might have different things that you can change depending on your role and position within your workplace. And then, what was already said around speaking up and greening your craft are 2 ways of taking action that we've seen members of CAT take action as well. And the speaking up part is interesting as well, because applying internal pressure can work really well in quite a few companies and has led to some members of CAT, for example, also basically creating new jobs for themselves within those companies to work on climate things in their day job now. So that's amazing. And then there's obviously the pressure from outside as well, like pressuring, for example, big tech, the campaign 1 in 5 for 1.5 on lobbying big tech to not lobby for climate, not lobby for climate and not fossil fuels, that way around. That was one easy way in which people can quickly take action as well, and have been taking action. And yeah, advocating and influencing outside in panel discussions, talks, in mentoring others, sharing the knowledge. And then within green teams as well, we've seen members push for greener pensions within the company. So that's like one of those cool things about taking action. You have so many different angles that you can approach it. And depending on where you're at and what you're interested in, you might take one way or another, and whichever way you take, great.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sandra. Great answer. Okay, so moving on to our last question. Oh dear, my power's just gone off in here. I think I've been sat still for too long. I think it's just my lights. Never mind. The show must go on, as they say. I'll get up and wave them in around in a minute. Okay, so our fourth question and our final question from me, and then we will move to audience questions. And I can see a couple coming in, so that's fantastic. Okay, so question 4. So we have up to 2.5 minutes on this question. And if any of you don't feel like talking for 2.5 minutes and you're done less time, then that's absolutely cool. But I felt like this was potentially quite a meaty question. So what actions would you like to see tech workers take, and what resources can help them? So what actions would you like to see tech workers take, or would you even recommend that they're taking, and what resources can help them? And again, for those of you watching, I'm hoping that you keep sharing your ideas, keep sharing your resources as well, because, you know, I think as Michael said in his answer, it's all about collaboration. And that's what today's event is trying to do, is to crowdsource lots of ideas. So, Chris, back at the beginning of the alphabet. Chris, over to you, up to 2.5 minutes if you want to take that time.
Okay, the way that I think we think about what you can actually do as a technologist at the Green Web Foundation, we talk in terms of having 3 levers for change as a technologist, which is consumption, intensity, and direction. Consumption is very much the kind of stuff you do anyway, which is, can I change how much I need to do something? So that's in terms of like use of, say, digital resources, which most of the time we're already compensated and rewarded for. Another thing is about intensity. It's like, can I change how much harm is done? And you might think of that in terms of, well, from our perspective, why are we running the internet on fossil fuels, indirectly cutting short loads of lives and accelerating climate change? We don't need to, right? And the final one is direction, which is, can I change where we are headed? Which is basically being very deliberate about what kind of world you want to be part of building, because there will be very deliberate choices that I've kind of outlined here. One example might be if you're using AI to, say, accelerate, say, drilling for fossil fuels. If a single contract is going to have the same carbon footprint as basically all of Facebook, then maybe you might want to talk about not doing that. Or maybe if you think that one of the solutions around making the world better, or if you're able to focus on increasing the likelihood of civic engagement, then you might do something like creating something like the Data for Climate Emergency website that I mentioned before, to increase the chances of meaningful collaboration and decisions being made there. There's also some other stuff you might think about, like, which is really, really basic stuff, which is like sort your pension out. There are companies like PensionBee that do this for you, so you can have a fossil-free pension, which means you're no longer exposed to the risk of essentially a chunk of your money invested in fossil fuel companies going the same way they do, but also it's not being used to kind of extract more fossil fuels, which you know is a really, really bad thing. And I think the thing that I'd probably I suggest you do is follow some of the stuff that we're doing with the Green Web Fellowship, where we're trying to figure this stuff out ourselves, because there's lots of levers, but it's also quite overwhelming. And it's useful to see some other people. I feel like being part of a group like either Green Tech Southwest or climateaction.tech or following other groups is really, really helpful to actually get an understanding of the kind of sheer breadth of tools and techniques available to you. I think the final thing I'd point you to is probably being part of a group like climateaction.tech. I think that's one of the most useful things to do because you can find other peers and learn more quickly about what you can actually do. Because I don't think I'm going to give you a really good answer, a summary in 2.5 minutes. And if you join a group like that, you can have lots of useful conversations with lots of people who've been thinking about it longer than me and will be happy to share what they know with you and other people just like yourselves.
Brilliant. Great answer. Thank you very much, Chris. So Janet, over to you. Take up to 2.5 minutes if you want to. What actions would you like to see tech workers take and what resources can help them? Janet, floor is yours. Over to you.
Okay, I'm maybe going to be a bit controversial here and say that I'm not sure that everybody is ready to take action. And I really think that we need to politicize ourselves more. We need to recognize that, we need to understand what the green growth agenda really is. And what a lot of these companies really want to do is maintain business as usual. And I think we need to really question to what extent we're feeding the machine that's killing the planet, and to what extent we really want to participate in that. And it's a really difficult question, what does degrowth look like for a tech worker? I don't know, but this is something that we really need to face. And I'm hoping that conversation is happening over at CAT. But I think that, yes, we need to get more political. And by that, I mean to really understand what's at stake with the different frames that are applied, with the different language that's used, with the different agendas that companies have. And a good example is all of these gigantic, amazing carbon reduction commitments that these companies have made, and likewise our governments, are they legitimate? Are they real? Or are they just designed to put everyone at ease and so we can all carry on doing what we're doing? And so I think before we look at tracking those commitments, we actually need to have a deeper understanding of the change that's required of society and our economies. So I hope that's not a too difficult question, but I think that as much as I'd like tech workers to dissect those commitments, take them apart and say, this is bogus, this is not good enough, you're not going to meet this goal. I think before we even do that, we have to have a more critical understanding of what kind of world we're working towards. So I hope that's not too difficult an answer, but that's my answer and I'm sticking to it.
I don't know about everyone else, but I think that's bob on. Personally, I think, Janet, that was an awesome answer. Thank you very much for sharing that. Really, really great. If anyone's got any thoughts on that, you've got the comment feed. Let's see what you all have to say. What do we think about politicizing ourselves? I'm in. I'm up for it. Okay. Anyway, moving on to Michael. So hopefully I'm getting a little bit slicker at sharing Michael's video each time. So here we go. Here's Michael. What does Michael have to say? Okay, so he's going to get big any minute now. Wonderful. Okay, Michael, over to you.
There are actually quite a few things that I would encourage tech workers to do in the upcoming year in terms of taking action. But the first one that really struck me is that please don't minimize the importance of looking out for your own mental health. If we're all exhausted and burned out, we cannot keep up the paramount work that we're doing to fight climate change. Remember that, and perhaps ironically, to borrow from an airline safety video, that if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then you can't help the person next to you. This is absolutely true for climate activism as well. As a colleague recently wrote on his blog, climate change is a journey, not a battle. We do need to change the discourse a bit, I think, and I agree with him. And while we need that change to happen yesterday, we also can't undo necessarily the grievous decisions that were made in the past. But we have to be in this for the long haul, and that will take, it's a marathon, not a sprint in that sense. So give yourself a break, stop being so hard on yourself, and recognize again that it's a collective effort. In terms of resources and what's out there, I think understanding what is available depending on your specific niche or your interests or your community around you, whatever, I think that's really important. And if you want to know what to do, where to work, I think it's a lot easier if I just say, reach out to me or to climateaction.tech, to that community, and see how you can get involved. I think there are a lot of different ways to do that. It kind of depends. Are you interested in policy? Are you interested in like the design, the software side of things? Are you interested in capacity building and helping other people learn about the issues? There's a lot of things that we can do. And also there's a lot of room for taking your own initiative in the sense of you're like, oh, nobody's doing XYZ. Then, let's figure out a way that we can do that together. Thank you so much for having me.
As always, very wise words from Michael. I don't know about anyone else, but I needed to hear that from him. Take care of ourselves. It's a good message to have. So Sandra, over to you. Coming to the end of the alphabet. Yeah, I know you'll have a lot of juice, a lot of goodies. So over to you. Floor is yours.
Yeah, cool. So the things that I would encourage tech workers to do. One is learn more about climate justice and how that intersects with technology. And that kind of relates also to degrowth and the current mindset that we have in tech. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I just posted a link to one of the events that we had at CAT, where we invited a speaker, Joycelyn Longdon, to talk about climate justice and tech and how that intersects. So I can highly recommend checking that out. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is forming coalitions. So just like Janet said about connecting people behind the computers with people that are working on the front line in the company, that is such a powerful thing to do. And Amazon Employees for Climate Justice have laid the groundwork for that. And I'm sharing another link in the chat on an episode of the podcast, How to Save the Planet, where they talked about how they actually went about to doing those changes and making the impact that they made. And a lot of it is like preparing for a shareholder proposal and then actually doing some of that work and connecting. And that's where the coalition building comes in as well. Then the other thing I wanted to bring up is holding your leaders accountable. So that's kind of related to this question of like, how do you know whether the goals are legit? Just keep on asking questions and keep on interrogating them until you get to the ground truth of what's actually being proposed. And then push for more and push for more action. And then the last thing that I wanted to say on this question that Janet raised of what does degrowth look like for a tech worker? We have a discussion right now on CAT about degrowth and about the word degrowth as well. And whether that's like off-putting and too radical or whether it is actually what's needed. I personally believe that it is what's needed, especially for the global north. So the book Less is More by Jason Hickles has been quite eye-opening for me on that front. And degrowth for a tech worker, the way that I'm imagining it at the moment is going away from the mindset of more features, more things, more everything, and just putting more features onto every product. And instead scaling down and removing the code that's not needed, removing the features that are not needed, really just like paring it back to what exactly the function is of a specific product or app or service. So that's how I'm imagining degrowth to kind of start working a little bit in the tech world. And that's me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sandra. Great set of ideas to finish us off. So that brings us to the end of our panel discussion. So I think we all need to say a massive thank you to our panelists for taking their time, taking time out of their day today, because I know everyone's really busy. We're all trying to like sort climate change out, aren't we? So for taking the time to come and join us today, for being present here, and for everything that you're doing in the organizations that you work for, everything that you're fighting for, and everything that you're championing. Like a massive woohoo, well done, and thank you so much. And there's loads of thanks coming in from the comments from everyone watching as well. So you've all been excellent. Thank you so much, and will continue to be excellent, no doubt. Now, I'm a little bit conscious of time. We've overrun. I planned everything to the minute, and yeah, we still didn't quite manage to stick to time, but hey ho, it's a panel discussion, so there we go. We do have a few comments that have come in, but I know that they're actually from a few questions that have come in, but I know that they're actually from us and from Green Tech Southwest, and I feel like we've asked quite a lot of questions of you today. So if there's anybody who is not a Green Tech Southwest organiser that would like to ask a question, I think we could possibly squeeze one or two in. Otherwise, we will wrap up and let everybody go back to their awesome days. So let's see. All right, I think we will call it a day there. Chris's cat needs cuddles. Yes, I think so, definitely, Janet. He's being called away by the cute kitty. So we will say a massive thank you again to our panelists and to Michael, who couldn't be Michael/Mo, who couldn't be here with us today, but did a great job at representing the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance remotely. So thanks to those guys. Sandra, Janet, Chris, if people want to get in contact with you and you want to, please share any means of contact in the comments. Don't feel you have to. I know you've all got a lot on, but if you would like to have people reach out to you, please by all means pop some contact details in the chat. So a massive thank you once again. We've got loads of people saying how insightful that was, how much they enjoyed hearing your thoughts, and thanking you. So thank you very much, the four of you. So Ellen, I leave you. We've brought you back on. You've got the fantastic task of rounding off today's event. Chris, Sandra, Janet, thank you again. You are now exiting the screen, and Ellen, I will bring up the slides for you, and we will hand over to you to finish off today's event.
Thank you. Just to really confuse people even more. Don't worry, you haven't all time traveled back to the beginning and you're going to experience this all over again. Just really turning things on its head for our last event. So yeah, I just want to mirror Hannah's sentiments there and just give a huge thanks to our panelists. What a positive way to end the year on, I think. And yeah, taking the time out of your really busy schedules. So that was amazing. Thank you so much. So at Green Tech Southwest, we like to practice what we preach. So obviously offsetting our online events is a huge priority for us. So we're really happy that we have teamed up with Ecology, a Bristol-based offset company, to plant our Green Tech Southwest forest. So these events will always be free, and we plan to keep it that way. But if you did want to show your appreciation for today's session, or any sessions for that matter, we would be ever so grateful if you wanted to donate some trees or plant some trees in our forest. I think a clump of 25, I don't know if that's the technical term, is like, the same price as a pint, if you're from the south, or a large coffee. Excuse me. So yeah, there's absolutely no pressure, but we would be forever grateful if you were. So yeah, the link will be dropped in the comment section. There it is. So yeah, really greatly appreciate it. Next slide, please, Hannah. Perfect. And yeah, so we are obviously a community-led and focused group. So we always keep an eye out on upcoming relevant events which we think might be of interest to you. So yeah, we've outlined a few that are coming up in the next slide, Hannah. Thank you. So yeah, it wouldn't be a Green Tech Southwest event with a little shout out to our friends over at Future Leap Network. For those of you who aren't familiar, they are one of the largest green business networks in the UK, based out of their sustainability hub on Gloucester Road in Bristol. If you are local, I definitely recommend checking out their co-working space. I know Mike and his team thoroughly enjoy when they get to work from there. So yeah, they've got a really cool sustainability hub, which I definitely recommend checking out. They've been huge supporters of us from the get-go, really. Yeah, we're incredibly grateful. And they also run a huge amount of events with great topics relating to sustainability, a few of which include, in the new year, supporting your health and well-being, which will tie in quite nicely to the New Year's resolutions that everyone will be reckoning with, I think, in early Jan. So yeah, that one's on the 13th. Then a few days later, on the 18th, I think we might just be covering the dates and times there, but you'll be able to see these slides in the roundup later. But tools to navigate the climate emergency, really nice sort of follow-on from today's event and sort of in the wake of COP26. So that's on the 18th of Jan. Make sure you check that out as well. Next slide, please, Hannah. And then I'd really like to think that you're familiar with the climate action tech following today's meetup, but considering the wonderful Sandra was on our panelist today, their lead organizer. So yeah, I mean, they sort of covered it quite well, but a global community of over 5,000 tech sector workers, all united with the sort of common goal of tackling climate change. So if you've left today feeling inspired and feeling like you know wanting more, I definitely recommend joining the Slack community. It's a great place to chat and just ask questions and discuss the topics related to climate change in a safe space. I know Hannah is really actively involved in that and gets a lot from it. So yeah, definitely recommend signing up as a tech worker. They also run their events, as Sandra mentioned today, with the one coming this evening at 6 p.m. I think the link is in the comment section, but I'll try and drop it in again. And yeah, I think it's just one to round off their year. So yeah, it's a good way to sort of see what they're all about. Another thing that they're involved with is Branch Magazine. We actually had the managing editor, Michelle Thorne, do a talk for us back in September. So they've just launched issue 3. It's a website, all sustainable, just covering topics with articles surrounding greening the web, but also the social issues which surround that. So yeah, definitely recommend checking it out. I think it was mentioned a few times in the comment sections below, but their issues 2 is also one that I definitely recommend checking out as well. So have a look there. Next slide, please, Hannah. And then, of course, our next event, so Tuesday, January the 18th as well, we'll be bringing you 2 transport mobility themed lightning talks from Tom Williams from Voy Scooters and Sebastian Thomas from TripShift, with transport accounting for about 1/5 of global emissions. They'll be talking to us about how to inspire citizens to rethink transport sustainably. So yeah, that's definitely sign up if you haven't already. There's loads of space left. Tickets are free. We'll drop a link in the comment section as well. But yeah, that's Tuesday on January the 18th. Next, please. Oh, she got there. And then finally, so we are looking for volunteers to help us with. As you probably know, myself, Hannah and Mike are all volunteers and do this sort of in our spare time. Though we love it, we never say no to a helping hand. So we're looking particularly around sort of social media / event promotion. So anything that just basically helps us with our Twitter, our LinkedIn, sharing our events, and just generally creating a bit of a buzz for ourselves on social media, a social media presence. And then also video editing, any of those skills that would be, if anyone possesses those skills, please do get in touch. We're cooking up a new format to bring these videos to you sort of after the event and to make them a bit more accessible. So anyone who does have that skills, please let yourselves be known. You can get in touch with us at greentechsw@gmail.com. And then finally, I spoke a bit too soon before. Like we say, your feedback does mean a lot to us, whether that's sort of criticism, there's no such thing as bad criticism. Please don't be shy. But also in terms of any topics I've mentioned briefly sort of in the intro, if there's any topics that you'd really want us to discuss or you think that would be interesting, and just please let us know. We've got a great team and a great network here to try and hunt down some speakers. So if there is something that you would like us to discuss or think that could be a big topic for 2022, please let us know and we'll try and bring that into fruition for you. So yeah. So finally, thank you so much for being part of it today. I've really enjoyed myself, and yeah, the speakers have been great. They've really great how they were so interactive in the comment section as well throughout their talks. Definitely got better multitasking skills than I have. But yeah, really hope you have a good rest of the day and hope to see you at the next event. Thank you so much. Bye.